Yeah, it's okay. And it's, you know, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the March 25th, 2025 special council meeting. As the meeting is live streamed and recorded and available on the internet by visiting the Town of Parry Sound's website at www.parrysound.ca. And I'd like to acknowledge at this time we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis of this region. And we're not doing any minutes tonight, but may I have a mover and seconder for the agenda, please? Councillor Keith, Councillor McCann. That the council agenda for March 25th, 2025 be approved as circulated. There is one addition for direction. So it is amended. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any disclosure procuring your interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none? Okay. And we'll move right along in the agenda to 911. And I am going to read the resolution, and then that way afterwards we can go right into a vote if we need to. But it's moved by Councillor Boardman, seconded by Councillor Ashford, that the 2025 operating and capital budgets be approved and that the budget bylaw be brought forward to a future council meeting for ratification. Mr. Harris, I believe you're starting things off.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to take a moment to recognize the efforts of all the staff across the town that have collectively made it possible to have the budget here for this evening. We think it's a budget that council should be able to pass, reasonable tax increase, and a number of critical infrastructure projects as well. Particularly, I'd like to thank Ms. Phillips and her staff for their hard work and bringing this together. There's a lot of moving parts and to get all the data and all the information from the departments, but to put it together and analyze it and bring it to this evening's meeting is no small feat. So thanks, Ms. Phillips and her staff for that. An increase in taxes is not the first resort, it's a last resort. We look at continuous improvement, and there's examples in the budget binder of things that have been done over the years to continually look at how we could streamline and either save money or do things more efficiently. And as well, we've been very aggressive at getting grants over the years. And Ms. Phillips has a slide that she's included in her presentation that's going to demonstrate that. So continuous improvements and grants all help us keep the tax rate down to something that is reasonable. And so just with that, I'd turn it over to Ms. Phillips.
Okay. I just wanted to again thank behalf of council, thank Ms. Phillips for the binders and everything. Well done. And her staff, obviously, that work along with that. I'm also impressed with the number of staff that are here tonight, which I think is really good. So thank you. Okay, Ms. Phillips,
Pleasure.
Floor is yours. No.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and the public. Welcome to the 2025 draft budget presentation. I'm Stephanie Phillips, Director of Finance, and this is Zach Tusino, Manager of Accounting at the Town of Parry Sound. Okay, So tonight we'll present the 2025 budget overview and the impact to the taxpayer. We'll show historical tax rate increases and do a recap of the 2025 capital budget. Then I'll present grants awarded per year to show the trend and talk about uncertain economic impacts and operating budget impacts. And then we'll go through the summary of net levy changes by division and bring some items for council consideration. These items can either be brought forward by a member of council or the public, and staff would be seeking direction on those items or confirmation for each item. So that's the agenda for tonight. So the 2025 budget overview. The town requires $506,986 in additional funds for 2025. In this budget, the service levels are maintained. And the operating budget has a modest increase. The 2025 budget focuses on maintaining existing infrastructure while planning to service growth, particularly housing, which is a priority for council and the community. So this is a 1.9% increase for operations net of growth and 1.8% for the dedicated annual infrastructure levy. And the budget's prepared as guided by the town's budget and financial controls policy and the dedicated capital levy, which is set at 1.8% by council. Okay, so this is on page 45 of the budget. So the taxpayer would pay $58.14 per year or $4.85 additional per month for every 100,000 in residential assessment. This is what a 3.7% altogether. The impact of that. And here's an example. This shows how you can convert the impact for your property. This is an example for an average assessed home. If you divide your assessment by 100,000 and multiply by $58.14, you'll get your yearly impact. So in this example, the taxpayer would pay $114.54 more per year or $9.54 additional per month. This table shows the historical tax rate increases. The operating rate increases have been less than inflationary levels for the most part over these years. Back in July, CPI was 2.7%, which typically sets the low end of the guideline for the operating budget tax increase. The proposed budget's 1.9%, which is less than that guideline, and together with the capital levy of 1.8%, it's a total increase of 3.7%. A lot of work went into review and revision to achieve that rate. So here's a bit of a recap of the 2025 draft capital budget. It includes 19.6 million in carry forward projects, which are some multi-year projects, and 18.1 million in new projects, 37.7 million in total. And some of the highlights within the budget are Pump Station 2 near Champagne Street at a total cost of 7.9 million. And 13.1 million of it is funded from a grant. A significant investment at the town dock, which includes rehabilitation works, sewer pump out facility relocation, and washroom facility improvements. Those all total to about 1 million. And continued investment in the paving program at 589,000, sidewalk improvements 200,000, and 590,000 for stormwater improvements. So those are some of the highlights from within the capital budget. Okay, onward to the grant awards by year. So this slide shows grants awarded by year notified, and it shows that generally grant revenues have significantly increased since 2019. The largest grant over the time frame is the 13.1 million for the town's pump station 2 project. Some other highlights include the playground revitalization grant, 489,000, which is in 2024 year. And the waterfront master plan, 60,000 in 2025. Those are a few highlights. On the next slide, it shows it by on a chart. And the town's been aggressively pursuing grant opportunities over a number of years. Any questions by council so far? No? So this isn't in the budget book, but in addition to, but I'll mention the page number as we get there. Okay, so uncertain economic impacts. The impacts of tariffs are uncertain. It could impact the price of heavy equipment or machinery. And the budget forecasts investment earnings to increase by 395,000 compared to 2024 budget. And the interest rates forecasts are forecast to decrease to 2.25% by the summer of 2025 in the budget and remain close to that rate. Assessment growth is at 1.1% or 149,000 and this is close to the average that the town's experienced over recent years. The budget continues to main focus on maintaining existing infrastructure and preparing for growth, and service levels are maintained, but okay. On to operating budget impacts. So 1.7%, which is a significant portion of the 1.9% required for the operating budget, is directly attributed to external board district services, which include policing, DSAB, Parry Sound Public Library, the health unit, and land ambulance. So those service a number of municipalities. And the other 0.2% are other budget impacts throughout. Okay. So this slide shows funding sources for the tax supported budget. And 11.7 million is from property taxation, which is 61% of the funding for the operating budget. The other 39% is supported through provincial grants, other fees, investment earnings, etc. Okay, and the next chart. So we're on page 40 of the budget book if you want to refer to that section now. So the next chart shows the net budget by service area. So 25% of your municipal taxation dollars go towards external boards, levies, and district services. 20% supports transportation and winter control activities. And then fire services, parks and rec, and waste management are between 5 to 7% each. That's a significant portion of the budget overall. Okay. Now, the summary of changes to net levy by division. So I'll turn it over to Zach to mention some of the high level variances here, and then council can ask questions of staff or managers by departments within this section. All right,
Yep.
Mr. Kuzma.
So good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'd just like to, I guess, like Stephanie mentioned, just to mention or talk about some of the larger variances within the budget, within those kind of departments. I would like to start by just noting that the salary and benefits do include increases of 2% for non-union staff members due from the October 2024 CPI index, and that the union members are looking at a 3.25% increase based on the collective agreement. So the first department, I guess, with the large variance is the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer. That department's seeing a revenue increase of 565,000, largely due to the OMPF grant that the towns received and investment earnings of 359,000, just due to having larger balances in the bank at this time. Expenses have increased by 221,000, and that's largely based on the contributions to reserve, of which 162K is interest and 125,000 our contribution increase for the West Parry Sound Recreation Center.
This is page 73. That was section within the budget. Continue.
Building is the next department. That would be on page 86 in the budget book. Here we see an increase in revenue of 14,000, and it's largely based on building fees due to increased anticipated projects for the upcoming year. And the expenses, we see a salary and benefits and development costs, so training and development costs increase, which reflects a full year cost for the Deputy Chief Building Officer being included in the 2025 budget. We can move on to planning, which is on page 88 in the budget book. Planning is seeing a net change of $127,000. Revenues have decreased by 82,000, which is due to the completion of the official plan, contribution from reserves, which is no longer needed, and expenses are seeing a decrease in the contracted services revenue or expenses. 14,000, and that's just due to the completion of the official plan and the zoning bylaw review. Development, we can turn to development, which is on page 90. So that's seeing a net change or a decrease of 134,000. Revenues have decreased by 92,000 from a decrease of 12,000 from federal grants for the waterfront master plan. Contributions from reserve have decreased by 53,000 for funds from the Smelter Wharf Reserve for their loan interest agreement. And then rent and financing revenues have decreased by 37,000, and that's just due to the half-year lease from the Smelter Wharf. Expenses have decreased by 188,000. 50,000 of that is from contracted services for the completion of the waterfront master plan and the business case development project. And then there's contributions to reserve, which have decreased by 139,000. 103 of that is a decrease for the temporary borrowing to repay as a repayment for them, the legacy capital asset replacement reserve for Dock C. And there's a decrease in $36,000 for the Smelter Wharf, again, for that half-year lease. And then move on to transportation, which is seeing a net change with an increase of $74,000. A large portion of that would be the salary and benefits. So there's been just a number of changes to note here. So there's 2 students that were double counted in 2024. So we've removed them from the 2025 budget. There were 6 students in the 2024 roadside grass area. In 2025, 4 of those students remain. 1 was moved to the transfer station and 1 was moved to downtown streets. There's 1 public works student added to the downtown streets area, and there's a new position for a manager of infrastructure, which is fully allocated to the transportation area.
Councillor Keith?
Thank you. I'm wondering if I can have clarification how that new position for the manager of infrastructure came about. Like, was there some sort of study? How did that decision come about? Because obviously there's a need and hope for tonight.
We'll defer the question over to Mr. Kearns, so he can talk about that position a bit further.
Yes,
Certainly, through your worship. Previously, the manager of infrastructure was a position that was occupied. It's been about 3 years since some of the duties were separated out of that position. However, there are a lot of tasks that remained. So when we discussed it internally in the department, the workload is there to more than occupy a full-time manager to be able to manage the infrastructure projects, the energy projects, the ice cap commitments. There's a number of things that would be rolled into those responsibilities in that position.
Go ahead.
so just to follow up to that, was there a few discussions and was there some assessment that came about over time? Because I'm wondering, in the meantime, how was those duties being performed? Was everybody trying to balance, or some of it was some of the ship was sinking?
Through your worship, I would certainly not characterize it as some of the ship was sinking. Certainly the duties are reallocated. We've done our best to stay on top of things. Certainly there were discussions at the SLT level. We talked about previous roles, what possible future roles there are, and certainly with the development activity, the building activity, the increases in capacity required throughout our systems, the workload is not going to shrink. So,
Mr. Harris?
Through the mayor, if I could just add, over the last number of years, and Ms. Phillips would have specifics, the government's requirement for managing and reporting on municipal assets has grown exponentially. And that it's getting on top of it to start with, but then maintaining and updating those records as pipes are built, as pipes are replaced, as other infrastructures change, all the asset management records need to be updated. So there's a huge workload that's been added. Just the town's growing, the town's improving its infrastructure, but the reporting provincially has increased significantly as well.
Yeah, and they want to cut red tape. Right, sure. Councillor Borneman.
So I assume that the job description here is being revised quite significantly from, if some things have been taken out and other duties are being added in. Do we have a salary range for this position explicitly in here?
so through your worship, I mean, I'll speak to that generally. Yes, there is a budgeted amount allocated, and that job description is fluid at this point. We're still, because of the changes over the years and the reallocation of the duties, the job description will not be the same as the previous job description for the manager of infrastructure. So there was a budgeted amount included.
Full-time was budgeted at 87,779. And that is plus benefits, but this would be considering that that's probably step one
Yeah.
or around there.
Already been-
Yes, so there would be a range, but it would be the first step of the range.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll move on to the Parks and Recreation now. And that's on page, I believe, 107.
so
So there's a revenue increase of $34,000, largely based from user fees, which is an increase of 10,000 due to an increase in adult programming registrations. And then there's a contribution from reserves increase of 27,000, which is being used to fund our leased vehicles in that department. Expenses here have increased by 108,000. So salary and benefits have increased by 40,000. There was 360 hours added for 2 students at 9 weeks and 20 hours a week due to increased requirements. There's a small increase for lifeguards, swim instructors, and then the aquatics coordinator to remain competitive for 6,000, and then the remainder is just the general increases like I mentioned earlier. Insurance, repairs and maintenance and materials have all incurred slight increases to ensure operations. The rent and financing expenses have gone up by 27,000, which is just the vehicle lease cost increases for the coming year. And there's grants and transfer payments have increased by 18,000, 16 of which is an increase to the municipal assistance program.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. I think it's for director unless Ms. McNamara is here. But in reference to the budget highlights there again, when we go up to the increase in lifeguards and swim instructors, and I appreciate the need to be competitive, but I'm wondering, given the situation last year and previous, does that mean that we're already starting to inquire at or post in respect to these jobs so that it's not just that it's in the budget, but yes, we're on it this time?
I believe I'll defer Miss McNamara, I believe is online.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Keith. Staff have been quite successful this year in our recruitment program. The percentage increase that Council sees is reflective of more of to align those staff with the cost of living increase that you'll see the other non-union staff receive across the board. And yes, we've been very successful with our seasonal staffing complement this year, and we have all these potential spots filled right now.
Oh, Councillor Ashford.
I'm not sure if we're there yet with the money, the grants for the Horticultural Society in Tower Hill. Have we passed that, or am I ahead of the game?
Yeah.
Oh, this was just additional funding allocated to flowers in particular. So
Yeah,
that would
it's
be
just-
in this budget.
Yeah, it just struck me as not a lot of money for what we're getting. So my first thought was, are we giving enough? Given how much work is able to be done and how awesome Tower Hill and the Horticultural Society gardens are. But then I started inquiring a bit, and I guess it's the centennial anniversary in 2027 for Tower Hill. So I didn't know, do we have like a Tower Hill reserve that we're contributing to in anticipation of that? Or is there, how is any kind of, are we organizing or planning for that at this point? Because we got the ranger cabin and the ponds need a repair and things like that. So coming up to 100 years of Tower Hill Gardens, is there anything on the books yet? Or is that, I don't even know if we have a reserve fund for that, or if it's under parks or.
If I may, Councillor Ashford, through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Ashford, yes, preliminary discussions have been had with the Master Gardeners Association regarding 2027 and a larger planned event for Tower Hill to honor and recognize the site and what goes on up there. So yes, that is planned. No, you're not going to see it in this budget because we are dealing with 2025 right now. We're talking about pie in the sky for 2027, and we have to get some more concrete plans in place so we have some firmer numbers for council consideration. Further to your ask regarding the increase for the services provided, the volunteer gardeners at Tower Hill, the way that arrangement works is council has a memorandum of understanding with these garden groups, And with Tower Hill Gardens in particular, their master gardener, Mrs. Bossart and I, we sit down together annually and we work together on the quantities and requirements for the summer plantings for Tower Hill. And those gardeners take advantage of including their order with the town's annual flower order to secure best pricing for the product. We get best bang for their buck, and the town pays for product that is put in the ground on Tower Hill. So that transfer is for funds that are planted in the ground, as well as any extra decorations that the group may desire as part of this annual sit-down plan and meeting.
So is there a reserve or anything for that, or is it just something we're going to try to deal with all at once in 2027?
Through your, pardon me. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a parks reserve, but so for the flowers in particular, this is really more of an operating cost, so we kind of deal with that through the budget annually. But through our budget planning for future years, I will be having a discussion and talking about that departmentally, how we're going to fund or accommodate the needs through that. Ms. McNamara, do you have anything additional to add?
I think you captured everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
All right, so we can jump over to finance now, which is on page 113 in your budget books. Here, there's a net increase of 137,000. Salaries and benefits have increased 68,000. That's just due to 2 position changes. We're planning to bring in a payroll supervisor to replace the full-time financial analyst position that was budgeted in 2024. Which is an increase of about 19,000, and we're converting an intern position for an asset management coordinator into a full-time position, as we were unable to fill the intern in 2024. That's a small increase of about 20,000. And the largest change is a contribution to reserve of $75,000. That's just to replace the town's financial system, which is being discontinued beginning in 2029. So we're putting some money away to be able to implement a new system in a couple of years.
Councillor Keith and then Councillor McCann.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Kuzno, can you advise me or Ms. Phillips, the asset manager coordinator position, like it just seems to me it's increased to 20,000. So what sort of a base salary would that mean to entice somebody to be interested in this new position? Please.
So the position is, the salary is 58,786. That's what's budgeted. But we believe part of the difficulty would be that the intern position that we were advertising for was only part-time contract, and it's difficult to attract talent sometimes for those types of roles, where this would be more continuous opportunity for someone. And we know we have a lot of data work and asset management work to do to advance our financial planning long-term and all that stuff.
Just for clarification, that benefits also would come into play also besides the salary, right?
Yes, definitely. So
Thank
that
you.
would be, they would have benefits and everything.
Thank you.
Councillor McCann.
Thank you. Going back to the payroll supervisor, is that position replacing a payroll clerk, or is there still just, I guess, how many people are actually in payroll?
So at the moment, we have a payroll and internal customer care person. And then we have Mr. Kuzno, who is oversees that. But in our department, we identified a number of gaps, like in financial reporting and budget analysis and things that need to be done in managing the boards and things we look after, where we're trying to also create capacity in Mr. Kuzno's role so that he can spend more time doing more advanced tasks within the department and provide assistance in those areas for me as well. Mhm. And that role currently takes up at least 60% of his current daily tasks as supervisory. So payroll is definitely a very in-depth activity at the town, and benefits administration and all those associated tasks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I guess with that, I turn over this to council to see if there's any questions within any of the departments. Or any of the budget tabs.
Counselor Ashford, sorry.
I did have a question back on page 89, and it was and then another question when you're talking there. There was a comment about Smelters Wharf having a part-time, only partial year lease. I just wanted to kind of understand that a little bit more. What's going on with the lease at Smelters Wharf, and what did that mean? And then in addition, I was wondering if we could get the timeline on the zoning bylaw. If we're kind of starting it now, and then when is it starting, and then how long is that planned to take?
Okay, I'll defer the question to Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Two questions there. The first one is with regards to Smelter Wharf. So there's nothing actually written in stone yet with what's going to be happening with the wharf. What you're seeing is a budget and staff's best guess on what we can expect. Mr. Kearns has been in significant discussions with the salt company, and we're expecting that there's going to be a request to exit from the contract. We have not received anything formal, and when we do, that would be something that would come forward to council. And but this in the budget is a best guess on what we're expecting, that they're going to be wanting to have some sort of an exit. With regards to the timing of the zoning bylaw, comprehensive zoning bylaw review, I'd like to defer that to Jeremy Rand. Through you, Mr. Mayor, maybe I
Yeah.
won't be deferring that. I will deal with it.
I don't see him in the list here.
The zoning bylaw comes after the official plan review. So we're expecting the official plan review to be wrapping up in June, July with that presentation to council. And once we've gained council's approval of the official plan, the new official plan, then we will be attempting to roll immediately into the zoning bylaw. They work hand in hand, and one reflects the other. Well, mostly the zoning bylaw reflects the official plan. So it's fairly important that the zoning bylaw review get done immediately after the approval of the official plan.
Counselor Keith?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Thompson, though, in doing the zoning bylaw, I take it one would also be taken into account the waterfront advisory committee's recommendations and that plan that comes into place also?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think the best way to look at this is that the official plan and the waterfront master plan are really tandem documents. And the policies and directions that are reflected, especially in the waterfront master plan, need to be policy based within the official plan, because that's really what the zoning bylaw takes direction from, is the official plan. So these are policy documents that need to be reflected in each other, but the top policy document for council is the official plan. These other plans feed into it, and the outputs come out. The implementation is mainly done through the zoning bylaw for the other two.
Ashford.
I wanted to push back to page 80 or to page 96 with the dedicated student for the downtown area. And I was just wondering if a student is enough, one student is enough. It does seem like good money, you know, if you can get, like, you know, it's hard to fill these jobs, but it does seem like we get a lot for the money we spend when we can utilize temporary student work in the summer. So I just didn't know, is one enough? Should we be trying for more? And where kind of is that focus at? And then in addition to that, what about the shoulder seasons? Like, is this something where we're going to be having trouble in the spring while they're still at school and having trouble in the fall when everybody's back doing their learning?
Through you, your worship. So certainly that's something staff has been cognizant of. And we looked at supplementing that with a casual position as well. You may remember when we discussed capital purchases, one of the significant ones was the small sweeper unit, which we trialed last year, which did a fantastic job downtown. Our older technology did well years gone by, but it gets old and tired and there's new advancements. So that the idea of that is that we can cover those shoulder seasons. We have the equipment, we will have the staffing complement. It is a seasonal type activity, so it's conducive to students and casual positions, and that's the intention this year.
So Keith.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Clance, just to be clear, that sweeper unit that you were looking at, wasn't that coming out of the capital budget? Is that the one that would be able to go underneath the Seguin Bridge and do its work because it was smaller? Is that the same one? Or
Through
not?
your worship, yes, it is, and we actually have the unit now.
Right.
So
Yahoo.
Councillor Ashford.
Sorry, there's a few things we didn't cover in page 26 and 30 that I was just didn't understand fully. The one was tax receivable in 2023 was near 8%, which was also noted as the start that we're starting to have an unhealthy. It just seemed like a really big number in my mind. I thought we'd kind of be a lot less than that. So I just wanted to know, it mentioned that we took steps and things are improving. So just wanted to hear a little bit about that. And then in addition, because it just seemed 8% is not that, but 10% seems horrible, right? Like I know it's only 2%, but it does seem a lot worse once it hits that 1/10 mark. And then the other part was just the debt versus own source. It seemed to say that we're at 2.3%. And we could go up to 25. Now, obviously, we wouldn't want to go up to the max, but it seems like 2.3% is really good. So I didn't know if that was if I'm understanding those numbers properly as well. And that was page 30.
Okay. So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the taxes receivable as percentage of taxes levied. So departmentally, myself and the manager of revenue and taxation have discussed how we will proceed through collection procedures at 2 years of taxation arrears instead of 3. So a number of years back, they changed legislation where you could begin that process at 2 years in arrears. So we're becoming a bit more proactive in collecting property taxes to address that so that we can get that down a bit. So that's one of the initiatives that we're proceeding with in 2025 to address that. And as debt, do you recall what page that's on? 30? Okay, so tax debt charges as a percentage of own source revenues. So in this table, it doesn't consider any water, sewer, debt charges. So at 8.5%, 2023, for the town of Parry Sound, that is approaching, we normally target a 15% of own source revenues as our own objective to stay below, although the highest level of that we would be allowed would be 25%, but this is also not considering those water and sewer type amounts. So any further questions on that?
No, thank you. I'll just let Mr. Beaumont know I'll pay my taxes sooner this year. Thank you.
They do this week. I think we're good to continue.
So earlier in the presentation, I highlighted the external levy impacts and those. So I don't think we'll go into that further unless there's any specific questions related to that. Okay.
Counselor Keith?
Thank you. And it is in respect to external levies. And I had hoped that the figure would be 2,500 and not 2,000 as what is budgeted here at the West Parry Sound OPP detachment meeting, actually 2 meetings. All board members had agreed that they would be requesting of their municipality 2,500 because this is the operation. It's a brand new board. There's a lot that goes into operation and insurance. So unless I've missed something, I'm only seeing 2,000 here or 2025.
It's taking a moment to just double check. Okay, so I think what we could do is, under the items for consideration, we could add one more item to add $500 to that. And then I'll make adjustment for that and make that correction.
Okay.
Fair enough with me.
Okay, sounds good.
Counselor Ashford?
But just for clarification, I didn't know where it fit in, but we kind of saw in the news and things that the OPP budgets or requests were going up quite high for municipalities. And it seemed like we've managed really well with our more modest increase this year. Is what's kind of happened with that? I saw in the news that maybe the province was going to help. Are those increased numbers for the OPP included in this? And how have we kind of mitigated it?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So originally, the levy requested was going to be a 25% increase to the town of Parry Sound. And that would have been an increase of 535,000. But the province passed Ontario Regulation 413/23, and a discount was applied to that. To the 2023 reconciled cost adjustment of 44% of overtime costs and 3.75% on the total overall. And additionally, a 10% discount was also applied to the 25 estimated costs. So the overall impact was reduced to 8.3% instead of the original 25%, or 177,000 approximately overall. So it has already been reduced. So that impact is already reflected within the recommended budget.
The big question is, and I know Ms. Phillips can't answer it, only the province can, is what happens next year in 2026. No, that's right. Right on. Councilor Bornwell?
Just gonna say, you feel good till you see it's still over $2.1 million for OPP costs that totally beyond our control.
Yep. Continue.
Okay, so items 1 to 6, in the items for council consideration in green here, those are already included within the recommended budget, so they're just for council confirmation of, and they're on page 47 of the budget book.
Tab 5. That would be tab 5.
And page 47, yeah. So I guess I'll just go through each item for council to confirm or there's applicable correspondence also attached behind the table for council's information. So the first item is increased contribution to the public library. So the request was 16,662. That's been included. And I think we normally do a resolution or vote on each one and then include that as.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor McCann?
I meant to follow up on this. I know that the museum board, through our manager, had asked the town about forgiving the remaining loan. Where did that go, or what has happened there? It's a longstanding loan. We've been paying it off over the years. But I think in addition to the ask this year, there was a question as to whether or not the town had an appetite to forgive the remaining part of the loan, any of it or all of it.
At the meeting that it came forward to council, no direction was provided to staff to take action on that item.
So it's probably too late this year then, because I know it was a significant amount. Well, at least, it's more than dimes and nickels. So would this be something that we would ask for at next year's budget then?
So this is, I guess, so it was previously discussed before council or an item that came before council. So if council wanted it to be considered like direction of staff or some kind of a motion at that time would normally have been made, but any guidance on that?
I think that's something that would have to be brought up at another council meeting. It's really not a topic for tonight. We don't have the figures and that sort of thing in front of us. So it'd have to be done at a later date.
I agree. That's fair. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with number 1, the library, and find out if there's any questions on that particular one and whether any comments or questions with regard to number 1. Councillor Keith?
Yes, my question is just a general question in that if the amount is approved tonight for the library and they, and shall we say afterwards, recognize that that money that can be utilized best at the library, a little different than what they're suggesting there, that would be no issue, correct? Because it's still, they're just requesting, giving us an idea of what they want that money to be used for.
So right now, through you, Mr. Mayor, the request would be to fund their current approved budget. So the board would have to revise their budget or provide some other direction on how it was spent. But here we would provide the level of funding that council approved.
So what I'm hearing, that would be an internal decision afterwards, correct? If the money was
Yes,
granted
of
tonight?
board.
Yes,
Yeah.
of the board.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So let's say you wanted to do less than this, then they would have to figure out how they're gonna fund whatever it is. Yeah. So, number one, okay, all in favor? That's carried. Number two, museums. Any discussion on the museum? No? All in favor of number two then? That's carried. Number three, Chamber of Commerce. Any discussion on that one? No? All in favor then? That's carried. Park to Park. Counselor Blasky.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd suggest we continue on with the same as last year. There's been some, signs made up that are, an additional ones going to be made up that are going to be placed at the direction of the town staff when we're about in our portion of the trail. And in those signs will be, historical photographs of the Parry Sound area. So there's been some cost included in that, so I'd like to see this, and it's the same as it was last year.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further comments on? No, all in favor of that one then? Okay. Number five, doctor recruitment, Northern Medical School. All in favor of that one? It's carried. Parry Sound Seniors Club. Basically on that one, we waive the taxes or whatever on that one, right? I think that's what we,
They may use the funding to go towards it on their own
Yeah,
end, but
okay.
we give them a contribution, yeah.
any comment on that? All in favor? That's carried. Next is non-funded on the Counselor Borneman.
I think my question is for Mr. Harris, probably, I'm not sure, but council directs our staff to maintain budget increases within certain parameters. Is that same information provided
To the other
to
boards?
external boards that these are the targets that council is expecting should be met? Or are these coming in? I don't want to say like the Christmas catalog, but are these wish hopes and prayers, or where are we on the list with, I just think that if we're going to be consistent, we should be, maintaining the same line across the board, not having too big of exceptions.
So in other words, maybe nothing any greater than inflation. Right. Yeah. But, yeah, period. Mr. Harris?
Through the mayor, these organizations are independent of the town and often have multiple people represented and sitting on the board, multiple municipalities. So it's hard to impose the town's budgetary guidelines on that organization. And the council does have representatives on those boards to try to get a balance and be cognizant of what the municipality may be able to afford or absorb into our budget deliberations.
Councilor McCann?
From my own experience on the boards that I've been on this term and previous terms, we normally look at what we need. For instance, we've had to deal with some severe maintenance issues at the museum, the library. We own the building and things come up like roofing and such. So I don't believe that we ever really took a serious look at what the threshold might be. We manage our money as best we can, and when we see these needs, I think we respectfully believe that the answer is no if you don't ask, so we ask.
Counselor Keith?
Well, there's nothing to say tonight that we have to support 10,000. We can just reduce the amount and go from there.
Counselor Ashford?
Just a clarification, with the 20K in the budget. So they made that presentation with all their, 5 or 6 things that they were planning to add to the beautification on the town dock and the little triangle and that stuff. Is that what the 20K is for? And we're going ahead with that? Or how does the 10K fit into that with this scenario?
So each year, the DBA creates their budget and this beautification contribution is a request from the DBA for a town contribution to their budget rather than raising their levy to the DBA on its own. In 2024, the 20,000 went towards beautification as well as support for, they had more events within 2024 and some of it was to support that economic development, those events. And this additional 10,000 is to go towards the items that they presented the other day. That was their request. The planters and things like that. That's
So we're talking like 30,000.
altogether it's 30. 20 is in there because that's what was in there in 2024. And this would be like additional 10.
Counselor McDonald's online and he's got his hand up, so I'll take him right at the moment. Go ahead, Counselor McDonald.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to say what Ms. Phillips said. I believe this extra funds will go towards the additional beautification at the town dock and taking on additional events that they're going to be running this coming year. So I'd be in support of that, the additional 10,000 for this coming year, and then maybe revisiting the ask next year.
Counselor Keith and Counselor Ashford and then Counselor McCann.
Well, I was going to suggest that the way you get a message across, whether it still will be money left over, is to reduce this request to 50%. So that would be 5,000. That means there'd still be 25,000 if one approved only 5,000 tonight for the operating budget. So I'm moving that we reduce the amount to 5,000.
Seconder for that? I'm not seeing a seconder. Okay. Okay, is there any more conversation? Oh. Okay, you're seconding it. Okay. Counselor Ashford, you were next to speak on this. Well, actually,
I can speak on the motion
okay,
and get my point across.
okay.
My only concern with the motion is, first of all, I agree 30,000 is a lot. But at the same time, and it's taxpayers' money. But at the same time, I don't think we would be able to do all that they're planning to do for $10,000 or for the 30,000 even. So in that sense, I think this is real good money to be spending if we can get what was presented in that, and we don't really have a way of guaranteeing that, but if we can get what was presented in that presentation the other day, it's in one sense, it's a bargain for us. So I would kind of go along with that if that's where we're going.
Counselor McCann, you were next.
Sure. So, couple of things then. So, yeah, the DBA is anxious to get involved with the beautification of the waterfront and, as Councillor Ashford has stated, these things do cost money and you get what you pay for. I think, I did have one question for clarification, and this is just for beautification. Was this for cameras or anything to do with safety as such? Because I know there's a lot of talk about
No.
that as well, but is this money simply for beautification?
Perhaps Councillor McDonald would have information on the details of that beautification plan. My impression is that it had to do with beautification and the projects that were presented to council at the last council meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe there's any cameras or safety measures included into that. It would be to continue the beautification down Bay Street to the town dock for benches, planters, as well as you know, the additional events they're picking up, the Witches Walk as well. So yeah, I believe that's pretty much sums it up.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just with my conversations with April Denman and Brenda Ryan, their proposals don't have anything to do with security or cameras or things of that nature. There is money included in the budget from what town put forward, what my department put forward, that is including cameras and security measures of those sorts.
Councillor Borneman?
So maybe someone can make sure that I'm not off track too far here. The word in these lines that concerns me is increasing contribution. I see it in several of those lines. Are we now setting a new base rate going forward? Is this the expectation that's going to be made, you know, next year and the year, you know, and next year's contribution goes up from where we are this year? You know, if these are a one-off, that's one thing, but if we're jumping things on an ongoing basis, that's a whole different discussion in my pea brain. It's true.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the contribution has evolved over time. At one time, it was Christmas decoration contribution or from one event to another, but we can most definitely itemize it on total contribution basis at the next, if
I'm not talking just about the DBA line. I'm talking about all of them. We're increasing all of these. Are we establishing a new base rate in each instance and going to work our way up from those numbers a year from now? Or is this a one-off for 2025? And whatever money's required next year start from zero and work their way from there.
Mr. Harris?
Through the chair, through the mayor, what I could suggest, we could approach these external organizations similar to the way we approach department budgets. If there's something in any year for a department budget that is a one-off, you know, we're doing something this year, we're not going to necessarily repeat it next year. The staff finance goes through and removes them just as a matter of course. Each year we prepare the budget. So if there were increases that were specific in one time, and maybe the downtown beautification at the waterfront is one of those examples, we can make notes that gets stripped away and we start at the original base for next year's budget. And so as long as we're identifying this as a one-time request, and if the beautification, I understand from what I heard the other night, it's for trees and benches and other things. Those sound like one-time expenses to me.
So we could approve this at the end based on a one-time request. Councillor Borneman?
So as I said, my concern isn't about just the DBA number, but I recall, for example, last year, there was a big number in the library ask for books and we split it up. You know, each of these entities have issues, as Councillor McCann said, with repairs and staffing and whatnot. I just wanted to be clear that we're not setting ourselves up with some kind of structural situation where, you know, we're working forward from this point when we should be
A little further back.
Yeah. And you know, to me, the information that's required here are just, it's a number, and it doesn't really tell me what the base number is and what the specific ask is for this year. It's not broken out, so I can kind of do the math real easily.
Councillor McCann?
So, yeah, as I was saying earlier, and as Councillor Borneman echoed, you know, things do come up and do we, you know, we talk about a base, but have we actually established a base? And again, it's very, yeah, well, exactly, yeah, I mean, right, we're looking at this, you know, at this 1 year at a time. And again, from my own experience, we've only asked for what we need. And sometimes the needs are unpredictable. So you know, I wouldn't want to make it too complicated or put too low a threshold on it, but maybe there could be some sort of a memorandum of understanding that all of these committees have a certain percentage that they try to work within, just as we try to work within a certain tax increase each year. And if there's something special that comes up, then they can write a special brief about that need and we go from there. But across the board to say you can't have more than 10 or 15%, I think is really going to strangle some of the organizations and covering some of the needs that they don't anticipate.
Councillor Keys?
I respectfully say that I think we're kind of getting off topic because there was a motion moved. It had to do with the DBA. And I think the other issue that we're talking about is another point. It is not to
Yeah.
do with specifically the DBA. And I think that if we are thinking that we do not want this as a continuation, the best way to send that message would be if one does not want to reduce it 50%, the 10,000, reduce it to 7,000. But it will send a message quite well that this is what the taxpayer, this is what the council is saying is appropriate, because please remember, there's another 20,000 already out there. So this isn't like the only request that is happening here. And I think this is our opportunity as a leader to say, this is what we're doing and we're going to continue. And so it'll be helpful to any committee in the future to be looking at these figures and before they request to be really certain what is a need and what is a wish, because also with the DBA, and I think they do wonderful things, but this is a plan that was presented. A plan means things can change, they can be tweaked. Thank you.
So I think council's been trying to rationalize in their own minds, even just $5,000, whatever, and that's why they've been doing it. So we can streamline this and I will tighten it up. So we're going to decide on the $5,000 only. Are you going to talk about the $5,000, Mr. Pileski? Okay.
I just, if you read across the bottom, sorry, if you read across the bottom of this, we have $9,800 available, which will not, from what I understand, will not alter the budget. So I guess an amendment or a change. We've got the Rotary Club and Harvest Share hasn't asked for anything. Well, they must not need it, or right? Rotary's a great organization, and so is Harvest Share, but they don't. So I think we need to reduce the DBA and include the Parry Sound School in with whatever we reduce it to stay under this $9,800. So I'd be Councillor Keith has said 5,000. I'd be agreeable to increase it a little bit more and leave room for the $1,000 for the school to get in there.
Well, you have an opportunity to either vote it down or agree
Okay.
to it. So
All right.
we can, like, If everybody's finished discussing the 5,000, I can call the vote. Are we finished? Okay, all in favor of reducing it to $5,000? Okay, opposed? Okay, well, it's defeated. Okay, so is there another figure in mind? Oh, Councillor McCann.
Well, let's go with 7,000 then, which is why I voted against the last one. If Councillor Keith made some good points there, and it's our discretion at this point in time. And I think that 7,000 is still a pretty fair amount for the additional work that the DBA wants to do. So I would move that we go with the 7,000.
Councillor Keith is seconding that. Any further discussion on the 7,000? All in favor of 7,000? Any opposed to the 7,000? Oh, okay, sorry. You're in favor of the 7,000? Councillor McDonald?
No.
No? Okay, so I need to see who's doing this here again. All in favor of the 7,000? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed to the 7,000? I got 1, 2. Okay, so the 7,000 carries. All right, next one is the Parry Sound High School Nutrition Program. Now, something I do want to mention with that particular one is DSAB does donate money on behalf of all the municipalities to the nutrition program at the high school, just so you know. That apparently that's, yeah. Any comment on the 1,000? Councilor McCann?
Well, I know you have to stop somewhere, but I think this is a pretty good cause, and I respect what you said, Mr. Mayor, about DSAB kicking in this $1,000 these days isn't a whole lot, and I think it says that it probably says more about the fact that we care than the amount of food it's going to buy. But so I would vote that we do give them the 1,000.
So,
I'd second that.
okay. All in favor of the 1,000? And that's carried. Okay. Now, out of this, okay, there's nothing on the others or whatever. So from line 1 to line 8, okay. Does council want to kind of ratify this in general, that any of the increases that were done here were one-time donations for 2025? Okay. That's kind of setting a base from before. Okay, I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Borneman, Councillor Keith. Any discussion on that? All in favor then? Any opposed? Okay, it's carried. All right.
Oh, one question of clarification.
Yep.
Is the intention to fund that from the 9,000?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
And there was $500 to increase the police service board?
Yes.
May we fund that from
Oh,
that
that's
as well?
right. That's
Is that
right.
right?
So we need to add the police services board
Yes,
to
please.
this total. Sorry, I forgot about that one. Any that's yeah. All right. All in favor of adding the 500 for the police services board? Any opposed? No, it's carried. All right, where are we next?
That's pretty much it. Does council have any further questions or anything on tonight's budget?
I don't know any questions, but I want to say bang up job.
Oh,
like
thank you.
staff and your department, like you're to be commended. Thank you. And you, hopefully you bought a new pair of shoes because of this?
I knew you were gonna ask that question. I didn't buy new shoes,
didn't? Well,
but
go
you
buy a
know,
pair
they're
tomorrow.
oldies but
Go
goodies.
buy a pair tomorrow. You know, when I take a look at what's going on out there in the province and that we can come through with about a 3.7% increase. You know, and 1.8 goes to infrastructure, what is extremely badly needed. And you know, the staff have all worked together to pull off, you know, something like this or whatever in operations with that. Kudos, well done. Thank you. Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. My question is for Ms. Phillips again, and that would be, tonight we also saw some screens that were not in our binder. Would council be able to receive a copy of those screens,
Oh,
please?
definitely. I
For
can send
education.
around a copy of the presentation for council.
Thank you.
Councillor McCann?
Well, I haven't been around as long as, say, Councillor Borneman has, as you can tell from his gray hair, but
Been married as well.
I hope she's not watching. The locks will be changed tonight. But I want to thank council as well. What I was getting to, as I overheard Councillor Borneman mentioning to you, Mr. Phillips, that there was a time when you had to sit and go line by line by line by line. And even when I got onto council in 2014, it was still a fairly long process. So I'm just echoing everyone's gratitude. Job well done, and it makes it really easy for us. So thank you.
That line by line's still there if you got a couple of days to go through it.
We still go through it line by line.
Yeah. Anything further? Because we have that resolution to pass. No? All in favor? That's carried. Now we have a bylaw here. Moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor Keith. That bylaw number 2025-7489 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2015-6551 is amended to permit agreements for a limited exemption and or deferral of fees charged for water and wastewater services be considered as read a first time. All in favor? That's carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? And that's carried. Moved by Councillor Ashford and seconded by Councillor Keith that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Who's going to briefly talk about this?
Mr. Mayor, I can speak to it.
Okay.
Ms. Phillips was busy pulling the budget together, so I took the lead on this particular item. There's two things that are being recommended as changes to the fees and charges bylaw. One is to have a limited exemption for affordable rental units, housing rental units. And it's the lesser of 15% of the units being built or 11. So the lesser of 11 units or 15%. It only applies to private sector rental development. And the rental, the project needs to be a minimum of 10 residential units. When it's exempted, the town doesn't collect those monies. And fees and charges were introduced a couple of years ago by the town because we recognize there was a significant investment required by the town in water and wastewater services. That was necessary to support the growth that we want to have happen and the new housing we require. It was mentioned as part of the earlier as part of the operating budget that we're investing in Pump Station 2. That's an $18 million project. We're getting a grant of 13 million, which is fantastic, but we have to fund the other 5 million. So that's why we're recommending a limited exemption for rental, affordable rental units to send the signal to the community that we are supportive. But at the same time, we also need the money to ensure that the services are there for the affordable units to hook up to. So it's a balance. The other aspect is for fees and charges are typically paid at the time of building permit issuance. On large projects, that can be a financial burden on the development. So this bylaw allows fees and charges to be deferred, payable at some point later than the issuance of a building permit. The building permit gets issued, the applicant enters into a deferral agreement with the municipality, and the payment is at a later point. The deferrals are with interest. So we felt the municipality is not disadvantaged other than just cash flow, the timing of getting the money, but we will collect with interest at some point. And in the case that the town needed money, we would have to either take money out of our bank account. And so that's why we're suggesting charging the applicant, if they want a deferral, the interest rate that the town would otherwise get if the funds were in the bank. This deferral ability to defer payments applies to any type of development. It's not restricted to affordable housing.
Councillor McCann?
A question with the units that are deemed affordable, is this perpetual? Is there does this run out in 25 years and then the units are considered free market?
Through the mayor, that's a good question. What the detail in the amendment, to be affordable, because we're not going to determine that ourselves. So it either has to comply with province's definition of affordable as they use in the development charges legislation or CMHC. And so if CMHC, our thinking was if CMHC gives someone a mortgage or preferential rates and whatever other incentives they may provide, and they require the units to be affordable for 20 years, that's good for us. If it's 30 years, we don't care. We can't police it forever, but it'll be whatever the CMHC or the equivalent organization the province requires.
Thanks.
Councillor Borneman?
Well, I'm glad to see this come forward. The deferral thing came up in our discussions 2 years ago or thereabouts with developers. And, I think what's proposed here is a pretty good balance. It gives them some latitude and some incentive. And I think it sends a signal that, we are trying to cooperate and make development work in the community, that we're not trying to hinder people in proceeding with these larger projects.
Correct. Councillor Keith?
Yes, so just for clarification, the interest rate that the developer, shall we say, would be paying, is that according to whenever they sign the agreement per the present interest rate at the bank? Like what interest, how is the interest rate itself determined? What the number will be?
Mr.
The interest rate will be adjusted annually, and Ms. Phillips will have how the rate is actually determined.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, so we would provide the average annual interest rate. So we would adjust that throughout the year. And then that would be calculated based on our bank interest rate, which is typically prime plus 1.65 at this time, but depending on what that is at the time.
Anything further? No? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have one more item. I don't have a confirming bylaw because it's a special meeting. but we have direction. I need mover and seconder for some direction. Councillor McCann, Councillor Ashford. Staff be directed to bring a report to council on the existing lighting and possible future changes in-park lighting, as well as possible benefits, potential adverse impacts, capital and operating costs prior to making any decisions on additional lighting. Any discussion? Councillor McCann?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad that this has come forward. We all heard at the open house at the Stocky Center with the introduction or with another showing of the waterfront master plan. And yeah, and a few people spoke about other matters that were out of the realm of what the evening's purpose was about, but they were good points. And one of them mentioned the fear for their own safety in some parts of town at night, and Mission Park was brought up. And Mr. Kearns made some good points about the fact that, well, parks are usually closed at night. There's no overnight parking or camping or whatnot. But I think, and what I've seen from the master plans, both for the town and for the waterfront, and from our downtown quality experience committee, is that it's not just about lighting for people who are ambulating during the day. We want to keep the area as safe as we can. Now, we can't turn a big floodlight on and keep the entire area lit up all night, but I think areas like Mission Park could benefit from lighting, and people are out and about. And I think the more lighting we have, it keeps sort of an element out of the areas, which, you know, smacks of ill things, an element of crime that we can keep away from these areas. And I know at our downtown quality experience meetings, what we've talked about is doing the same thing, having lighting in areas where people would normally congregate and are up to trouble, rather than, so I don't think it's just about lighting the way for people, for pedestrians and such. I think we're speaking on another level, which is all about safety and people feeling safe in our town.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. I would be supportive of this, provided this is a matter that also will be added to the agenda of the Accessibility Committee meeting, which is coming up on April 16th, because at that meeting on the agenda already is about the access and egress to Mission Park, and certainly a discussion about lighting can also be partaken there. And in addition to that, I think it's also something, and I'm sure operations department, et cetera, staff will know the best about, but also I thought we had something like some plans, like like whether it's a 5-year plan, what our plans are for the future for some of these parks, so that we aren't just kind of band-aiding, saying, okay, now let's do lighting, and then 6 months later, let's do such and such. So I think it's really important. I appreciate the involvement of staff doing this, but I also think it's important to have, for example, committee involvement. So because that's why we have these volunteers in committee that can contribute as citizens in our community to what is being presented, for example, the direction here tonight.
So I don't see an issue with that going to the accessibility committee. I think that's part of probably the process or whatever that could go through. With regard to the parks and how that's done, I think some of that was done in the Recreation and Cultural Master Plan that we did, which involves basically another, would involve another relook at that, or studying up on what the parks analysis were in that particular study that was done. But that was done a couple of years ago and completed, so we have that information as to where the parks are. So tonight we'll deal with this, and I think it can go to the accessibility committee because I think it's proper. Anything further on this particular direction? All in favor then? That's carried. Unopposed. Okay, prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council for the town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the Town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seagon Street, entrance via Gibson Street, and will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. And your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. For Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.